So we are live.
Hello, world.
Hello, world. So if you have not seen the announcement, to the people that are watching, this is my colleague, and I guess to a certain degree, supervisor and product manager, Andy. He's a really great guy, and I did not really know what a product manager or a project manager really does. I still don't really know. Apparently, there's like a real difference. And I guess if you wanted to kind of get into that, Andy's going to be here to show us a bit about that trade and a bit about what he does on a day-to-day basis. Hi, Andy.
Hi, Alex. Thanks for having me. I'm
Uh,
thrilled. I haven't watched any of your content, I have to admit. And I didn't know that you're such a avid content producer.
I'm so not like I
My
used.
weekend is busy now with like
Yeah,
watching
I
binge
can.
watching Alex.
You shouldn't. I don't produce as much content as I used to. Like when I started out a year ago, I used to produce like at least a video every week. But now I've deleted a lot of it, and now I'm doing a lot less. But be like you should be,
High
I guess.
quality guests now, I assume.
Yeah, yeah, much better,
Mm.
as you may be able to see.
Starting next week, probably.
No, right now, today.
All right.
So, like a few questions that I prepared for you. Well, I guess one question that I did not write in here is just tell us a bit about yourself, just you.
Just me.
Yeah, anything that represents you. I don't know, maybe about your childhood, like and anything you want.
All right. Okay, that could go. That could go very long. Like how much tape do you have here?
I have about an hour of tape before
Okay,
we actually go in a work meeting, but let's go.
let's go. Yeah, I'm Andy. How old am I? I'm 36. Do you guys also struggle with like figuring out your exact
Oh,
age at some point? No, I always
always.
struggle
I
with that.
never know.
It's weird. Yeah, I'm 36 apparently. I grew up and I still live in Germany, Bavaria. I grew up in the very south of Bavaria in the mountains. It's a little place called Garmisch. Very mountainy, very you know rural also. Yeah, moved to like constantly moved up in iterations towards Munich, where I studied some business stuff, a little bit of electrical engineering. I forgot all of that because of the business stuff. Because of never using it, probably also. Yeah, and then I went into consulting for some years, and then I built a couple of ventures, and then I ended up working with you. And the pinnacle of this is today on in your show. Yeah, what to tell you about me? Big time introvert, so this is horrible for me right now. What else? Not much else.
Well,
Yeah, I used to do a lot of like skiing and stuff like that in the mountains when I was younger, but I'm not doing any of that anymore. Big time hiking fan now. Me and my wife, we go hiking every time, like every free weekend that we have, and we can do that. So we're into that. I converted her a little with force also.
never wrong.
Um, huh?
Skiing is nice.
Yeah, I did break my was that the wrist? I did break my wrist really badly at one point from skiing and had to spend a whole summer in a cast inside. Um, and that's horrible when you're 14 or 15, then like that's like feels
That
like
was
your entire life stops, right?
yeah.
And then I got really um I got really insecure on skis, so I stopped doing that. Because it like if you had this one-time thing, like it also was a big operation and everything, then I kind of lost the fun of doing that.
Yeah, I can see that. I used to enjoy driving a lot. I had the car crash. Now I'm much more careful. And for a
That is
while,
good.
for like a full year or two, I was even afraid to even get in a car. So I fully understand that. It's unfortunate though because skiing is fun. I like skiing. I never
It
quite
is.
understood hiking.
You're too young. It's an old people thing. But we the old people, we love it. We meet other old people. On top, we then sit in huts and drink very expensive beer and mediocre food for
I mean,
on high altitudes. It's great.
beer can be fun. It's
Yeah,
it's
I know. I know that was the lure I was casting out there. Like,
it's very interesting that you said you're an introvert and like you're not used to being interviewed because you'd be surprised how much I get that. Even one of our colleague, I'm not gonna name him, but I think he has like a ton of amazing information about what he does, and a lot of programmers would like really find that useful. And even you, I did not know. I still we're gonna get into product management and what that exactly is, but like people out there don't know, and you guys are would be surprised how much value you can actually provide to these people by just pushing a bit and being a bit less introverted, because I'm actually an introvert at heart too, even though maybe sometimes I don't seem like one. I just had to fight it. That's
I think we uh, I think tech in general has a huge share of people who are more like, it's a spectrum, right? It's not a binary thing. Like, and you can be different things all over the day, and private and in job. Like, it's normally it's very different of being in private situations compared to like official situations where you're being paid for doing something. Um, but tech in specific and development for sure favors people with uh, introversion, I think, because it also like it's a benefit there. It has huge uh, benefits for concentration and going deep on things and like everything that has something where you go down rabbit holes, I'd say you have a natural tendency, like it's not a one-to-one match, of course, and I'm sure that there's all kinds of people who are good at all kinds of things. Um, but I'd say that it occurs to me that everything that is very analytical, there is a big correlation with people who don't have to be the life of the party, but can be the life of the spreadsheet, for example.
I mean, that's a very important part of everything we do. I feel like most people are somewhat introverted. And I feel like most jobs require a certain degree of introversion because you have to focus to actually do stuff. You can't always talk to people. But then again, like I feel, especially like from my point of view as a software engineer, I feel like just even if you don't want to be social, but learning how to be social is super important. Like after Amsterdam, I was drained. I did not want to go out of the house for a whole week,
Hmm.
but still like I pushed myself to do it, and I think it's super important to do it. I think it just adds on, like multiplies your technical skills. That's
It's
the
called a
way
social hangover.
really.
Yeah, there's a like us intros, we call it a social hangover.
I did not know there's a term for that. I was just like, oh god.
I'm half bluffing, but I heard it before. I don't think it has made it into the mainstream yet, but it is. I mean, it's what happens. What happens on conferences, right? If you just spend your day talking to people, listening to stuff, then if you're in a startup scene, then you're pitching your thing constantly. It's incredibly draining. Like you can do 3 times, 4 times that much. Like for me, it at least feels like that. I can do 3 times, 4 times that much in terms of work of where I'm, working on things on my own, compared to having this. All right, you need to figure out like how to talk to this guy, and you need to do a very good job in pitching your product to this person, and then there's people who want to work in your company, and you also need to do a good, like you also need to be like different characters all the time. So yeah, that's definitely a draining thing, and some people can do that very well, and some like me who cannot do it very well.
I think you don't credit yourself enough. You probably do a lot more social stuff than me.
You haven't seen me on a conference. Like at some point, I just snap and scream.
You have you? Oh, you haven't been in Amsterdam.
No.
No. Okay.
I got COVIDed out.
Yeah, I remember.
Wow.
So I'm curious about your consulting days.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know you did consulting before, and I used to freelance too. So I'm curious about your experience. How much did you do it? Why did you stop?
Yeah, that was really hard stretch for me at the beginning. I grew up with very punk rocky attitudes, and like listening to punk a lot, and being like very anti-authoritative. Like at home, I was very nice. Like I always wanted to be a rebel that never really made it out. Hang on, I need to turn off my notifications. They are annoying. And yeah, then I finished my studies, and like everything was, as it goes with studies, very nicely. You're very free to do things. And I had my own punk band at that time also. They're called Timmy No Pants. They're awesome. They don't exist anymore. And then I went into, because I didn't find a job really. I found a job that was sort of nice in an agency, small marketing agency. Really cool people there. I had a fun time, I had a great time. But I couldn't pay my bills with that really. Like it was, typical agency work. And like if you junior an agency, then yeah, you better pick a better place to live than Munich, let's say. And yeah, that didn't work. And then I watched around, like, what can I do? And I was really unsure at 25, like, what is it that I want to do? Like, what's the job I want to pick? What's the industry I want to be in? Like, I also felt like I'm not good at anything. Like, no one's ever going to hire me because I have zero experience. I have only theoretical knowledge from uni, and that combined with, like, you don't know where to go, so you need to do something very broad, and at the same time you have no like passion yet. That you didn't have a chance to figure out like what is it that you don't want to do, for example. And for that, consulting is like a natural like magnet for that, because it gives, like, there's a lot of negative things that you don't want to focus about probably now, but the positive thing about consulting is that you learn a lot of things very quickly. You get to learn and test drive a lot of different roles, industries, situations, countries, even in a very quick time, which is again very draining and yeah, very overwhelming to everyone in this industry. So I kind of thought like, okay, this is great to get to know what I want to do. I didn't know what I get myself into. And I was really very close to breaking me in several senses. So, but at some point you find your way, like how to do things, how to deal with things, who to trust, who to avoid, like what kinds of situations to avoid also, and where's the things where you can really shine, where people respect you for what you do. yeah, and that's 5 years later. Then it
Curious
took me
what
5 years. It took me quite some time to figure out what I wanted to do there.
yeah, I did freelancing too, and I had like the same as you said, I had an experience where I was like, okay, what do I do now? Maybe I try my hand at this coding thing, and it just kind of stumbled through until I got here. But I'm curious, what service exactly were you offering, and what was like a day to day in the fulfillment of your job, not necessarily the getting of clients?
Consulting, you mean? Right. Yeah, I was in the operations sector of that. So we were basically, so the idea was we were getting really smart and really good, and we had a lot of colleagues who were really smart, really good, and experienced in anything operations, so anything manufacturing, um, processes, and stuff like this. This then later became strategy consulting, really. So my services were like in the beginning a lot of number crunching, research, creating business presentations, basically on like, hey, you want to save 20% on your operations. You're a global company, by the way. I'm a junior consultant, but I'll now going to tell you like how you save 20%. That which was an extreme situation, to figure out like, okay, I'm full of shit here, but I need to find proof for what I'm like my hypothesis, because I have zero other things to back it up. Like my only shield will be data. So yeah, I got really good at researching and connecting things together quickly. Um, and yeah, that was the first part, and then it went on and on more into project management, which is probably a thing that we want to talk about later, maybe, where you have to project manage teams or customers, for example, who hire you to project management them, to deal with their reporting, deal with their planning, with their budgeting, with all of that stuff. And that's definitely something I found like was good learning. I found out that I definitely don't want to do that. I'm not the right person to do that because I'm not trashing that sort of line of work. It's amazing. It's really good to have people who are good with that, but I'm not good with that. Really, like I take out the necessary things and I do them, but like I'm not like it's not giving me joy to do that. And yeah, from there it went on and became more in terms of acquisition of clients and managing teams, and yeah, and that's also where I started to find like my passion for more like going more into away from business strategy stuff, more into digital products. And then I got the chance to build stuff. And when I say build, then I don't know anything about coding, of course, but I can connect requirements and figure out like what is needed. And then I learned how to do prototypes and do visual things and to create basically backlogs for others to fulfill. Yeah, and that was a lot of fun for me, but that's not well suited for consulting. So consulting companies tend to quickly go away from deep product work, and more on the like stay at the forefront of that, and then basically have partner companies to do that. So yeah, there was not like our ways had to split at this point, I think, because I wanted to go deeper into like digital products and understand better technology and use it in my day to day, and was less concerned with I don't know, business cases and pitch presentations and yeah, things that don't materialize. That's I think one of the biggest challenges for people working in consulting, that things they do, they don't materialize often, and 80% is ending up in a bin, and you never get to do product work. And it was frustrating because I loved the product part, and then I thought like I needed to work more on that.
I'm curious because you mentioned that in the beginning you were kind of bullshitting and you didn't really have any proof. And this is actually one of the reasons why when I first started out 3 years ago, I started with web design, web development. It's because it was easy to produce proof because I can make a website for a fake company and then say, hey, I know how to make websites. I'm curious how you tackled that because, like I said, telling somebody that you can save them 10%, but you have never done it, it's kind of hard to prove. And I was always curious, how do you prove something like that? And how do you sell it? How do you market it?
Yeah, consulting never has to prove it really. That's one of the things. Um, but of course, everyone, like all of your customers, know that, and it's a big chunk of why you're there is that they look for somebody to give them direction, not necessarily to see it through. So, like, you don't help anyone by telling people like, I don't know either, man. This is completely over my head. Sometimes it's just about they have an own idea of what they want to do, and then they need backup for that, and you back that up by research. And if you get really good, and if you have a lot of tools to do proper research, for example, you can start deriving like logical recommendations, basically, and you start to do comparisons with peers, for example, of what did they do and what are actions that they did. And then I learned a few hard skills for that also. I learned Lean Six Sigma. I got certified in that. So that's like techniques to save, like to reduce waste basically in processes. And I did learn a couple of tricks there. One of them, like Kanban is part of that, and you love it, I know. And yeah, I learned a few things there. That definitely helped, and that made me feel better. Like get rid of that imposter syndrome of like everyone knows more than me, and I know nothing, but I'm supposed to deliver something really good. So you need to go as logical as possible with this, like find as many data points that support your hypotheses, then you feel better. And B, like learn all the hard skills that there are available for these kinds of things. And yeah, the thing with consulting is you need to be quick with everything. Like everyone expects you to do that at night, over the weekend, whatever. Like it's not a 9 to 5 job. People tell you that, but you don't understand what this means if somebody tells you after your studies, like it's not a 9 to 5 job. And you think, well, okay, it's a 9 to 6 job then, right? But no, it's it's a 6 to 10 job. And it's yeah. So especially if you coming with this situation of like, okay, additionally to my work, I need to learn. So that's really straining.
It's very interesting that you said that it's not a 9 to 5 job. I've had the same experience. I avoided getting a normal job, and I did freelancing for 2 years. And eventually, I got convinced by someone to try my hand at the job. And my main fear, if you actually go back on my blog and you look at the article when I actually decided to quit freelancing, my main fear was that I'm going to be less free, and I'm going to have less flexibility, and I'm going to have all of these structures imposed on me. And after I joined Duke, and I realized, wow, I'm actually more free. I have better work-life balance. I can actually do hobbies now. It was mind-boggling to me. And it turned a guy me that was like entrepreneurship, flexibility, freedom, freelancing, blah. And I'm like, you know what? Jobs are cool.
They absolutely can be, right? They can give you freedom via structure, right? You can encapsulate your work in something, which sometimes people in freelance and entrepreneurs especially, like they take home their work with everything like all day every time. Like they never have vacation because they, even like when you're sitting like in the Alps going skiing, or at the beach, sitting in the sun, you will still be thinking about, okay, well, my product, my service, my business, what can I do to make it better? And then you see another message, and something is going wrong, and you're like, oh fuck, I need to jump in. So jobs that are more structured, they give you that freedom to like just turn off at some point. And I think it's also a very valuable lesson. The world doesn't stop if something goes wrong, and there's other people, like, you're not irreplaceable. That sometimes feels bad, but it's also a good thing, because people can take over while you're not there, and can fill in, and you don't have to feel bad, right? And I think it's a super important lesson. And yeah, I think if you have the feeling right now that it is like that, that's great,
Yeah,
because that's how it should be.
I fully agree. I remember, like, just as you said, you're maybe on vacation, you're doing something nice, and you get this text, and you have to go and put out the fire because you're the only one that is there to put out the fire. And that was actually the experience that had me say, okay, I'm gonna give in. I'm gonna try having a job, because I had a client. There was this bug that happened in production, and I had to wake up at 2 a.m. in the morning and go on my laptop in my bed and try to fix it. And I was like, this has to stop. This is not okay. But going forward, aside from the obvious structure and the work life balance that comes with a job, were there other reasons why you chose to quit consulting?
Well, yeah. I mean, like I said, the one thing is I figured out, like, my passion was for something more permanent. The thing is, I still didn't know in what area, what domain, but I felt this. Okay, it's great. It's great learning opportunity, jumping from project to project and learning something new all the time. But, like, I'm not reusing this. I'm not building something that has permanence. And I think that was the main point for me, where I figured out, like, okay, even if I look at managing directors, they do the exact same thing. Like, they become experts in their industry, of course, but then, like, they still follow every new fad, and then it's mobile first, then it's analytics, then it's big data, then, like, but they're not reusing any of that. They're not becoming experts in any of that. And yeah, I didn't want to do that. This didn't really, I didn't see my, like, I had zero vision of how is it going forward with that. And I was just, like, living from, okay, well, what's the next promotion? What's the next um, thing, like the milestone that you need to reach? But the question of, like, why are you reaching this, I could not answer. And, like, it's, like, only because of money, and money wasn't that good compared to, like, all the effort you put in. So yeah, it's all of that, all of these things, like intrinsic motivators, extrinsic motivators, that came together. And then I found, for me, something in venture building, like company building, that was a lot of fun, and that suited me really well. And I narrowed down the scope of where do I want to work and what kind of topics and etc. And also, what do I want to do? And then that catered to me a lot, because I'm getting bored at some point in time, like, doing the same thing over and over. Like, I'm a little bit conflicted here, right? I want to be an expert on things, but I don't want to take super long to be that. Right? I want to learn things quickly, and I want to reuse them, but I want to get really good at them. And then I want to be able to reuse them at the point in time where I need them and not forget about them, but I want to do other things also. And so, company building was great for that, because you have to do a lot of different things also. And while you are still building something that potentially is pretty permanent, so you're building up on things, like, you iterating forward, which is great, but you learn a lot of different things. And yeah, that was very intriguing, and I knew I had to quit for that.
So after you quit consulting, you came straight to Tucan, or was there somewhere something else in between?
No, I worked for a company builder, so basically somebody who builds companies as products, together with others. We've done venture partners for 4 or 5 years or so, and I had a chance to build and create products and ventures in itself. So basically, was being a paid co-founder for ventures. Um, and did that for quite some years. That's also where I got into carbon, and because we were collaborating on a in carbon intermediary business, and that's like I said, that's something like was completely new, but I knew that I could be building on something. I could go deep into pieces, but there were so many different things to do and to understand that was super intriguing to me also. And yeah, that's really where I caught the bug for all of that.
Which is kind of the perfect segue into my next question, which is why Toucan, why ReFi? How did you join? How did you get here?
Yeah, so one of the things, as I said, was building something on like building products in a sector that really I got really interested in that stuff, in like climate and carbon markets in specific. And I really went, like, I had a great time researching that and reading thousands upon pages of legislation and protocols and best practices and even standard, like even like the documentations of these carbon standards today, like I inhaled sort of, and it's super boring, but it was great to see like how did we come up with all of this stuff. And in 2017 I got interested in crypto, and gambled a little bit with that, and kept on reading up on it. And I knew at some point I did want to go into this direction. It's like, from a technical perspective, this to me is the internet. Like, I miss the internet of the 1990s, and it, like, I miss the chance of like being part of that, but also mainly because I was too young, but also maybe I made a lot of wrong decisions. But in this case, like, it feels like it's another chance for our generation to be like part of this generational technology that has the possibility to change everything. And yeah, I definitely wanted to go into that, but I had the same problem as with consulting. I didn't know shit about anything. Like, I read about stuff and I played around with it, and but I'm not a developer. I wouldn't call myself a DeFi degen or any of that. Like, I wasn't at the forefront of all of this, and it felt like everyone I talked to was at the forefront of this, and everyone was an expert. And again, I had this feeling of like, I know nothing about this, but I really want to know something about it. And then I figured, okay, there's a fantastic overlap of something where I'm building up knowledge I've built up for a few years now, in climate space, and where there's also a technology that passions me. And yeah, then I did a little bit of research, joined communities, started talking to people. Somebody told me that's the legwork you need to do, and that's what I then did. And yeah, that brought me to Toucan at some point. And I thought it's like a perfect mixture of this. Like, I had found my industrial vertical that I wanted to be working in, which is climate, and carbon. And I found the technology that I can witness and maybe a little bit help proliferate and bring into mainstream. And yeah, it felt like a perfect match of things. So it was pretty clear for me that this has to happen.
It's so interesting to me and so important to tell to other younger guys that, look, you stumbled into where you're now. I stumbled into where I'm now. Like, when I was young, I used to think everybody's got the plan and they know exactly, I have to do this, I have to do that. And maybe I was completely doing something wrong because I had no idea what I was doing. But you just stumble through and you figure things out. Like, when I first joined Toucan, if you remember, I think you were one of my first meetings in Toucan. when I was onboarding and I had to build that transaction offsetter, I did not know what the carbon offset was. I literally did not know. And now I have people asking me about what they are. And you just learn. You have to, I think, learn to live with imposter syndrome to a degree.
Absolutely. You have to get over it. If you want to get something, like, you can be stuck in paralysis with that forever, but it doesn't help you, it doesn't help anyone else. And you just, need to get over it. It's great because it makes you overperform a little. It's bad because it makes you spend a lot of effort on that. But you can be becoming really good at things because of that, because it's a great motivator, to do the right things and to double check and build really good stuff with that. Because you don't want to wing it, right? You don't want to build something mediocre that falls apart. You want to build something really good because you have the fear of it's not being good anyway, right? So it's to some extent it's helpful, and to the paralyzing extent, you get over it at some point. Like, you get used to it, and other people have it, and you will be dealing with that, and then you will become fantastic.
We're already past the halfway point by like 12 minutes. And I think we should touch on what you actually do. Like, what's your day to day as a product manager?
Yeah, so product manager day to day, it's really different. Like, you don't have this, like, probably everyone tells you that with every job description ever, that you don't have like a regular day. Um, I think the most common thing that product managers have, or whatever you want to call it, product owners, a little bit different maybe. But everyone who's working in products has these kind of like regular, let's say, product management elements of, going through organizational tools like backlogs and ticketing systems, and bringing order to chaos, really. And I think the main thing is that you do is you spend time on structuring chaotic work, or let's say chaotic requirements, into doable work, and in such a way that you don't be prescriptive and tell people, like, you need to write the following lines of code, but that make you that you make it clear to people what they should be working on. And there's a lot of, like, again, legwork, where you do a lot of communication and documentation and all of that stuff around product requirements. So basically requirements management, I'd say. And then there's also things that people call requirements engineering, which is basically to extract what people actually want to have, what people would be like, what's the pains that you're trying to solve. And all of these horrible, I hate business books. I just hate them. They are like full of trivial crap. And all of them tell you, like, this is fall in love with the problem, right? And catchy phrases like this. And that, but it's, to some extent, it's true. It's just, everyone who's working in product knows that pretty soon that this is what you do. Just, you don't have to give it a moniker. But this is, I'm rambling, I'm sorry. This is
Rambo.
what you do on your day-to-day, really, and where you should be spending the most of your time as a product manager is soaking up, extracting the problems of the people who pay for a solution. Or if you're lucky enough and don't have to have people who pay, but you can be working on public goods, for example, you figure out what's the problem that you want to solve for society, for example, or in civil engineering or whatever. And you get really good at ignoring people who tell you, like, that's the solution, or here's the technology, what's the problem. You go the other way around, and that's where you spend your time with. You figure out customer problems, user problems. You figure out how are other people solving this, and why is it not good enough, or is it good enough, and what can I do better. You communicate that, you make that graspable, you bring together people, because no problems can be solved by just one person or one domain. So you need to interact, like you need to be the representative of the users, basically, of the problem, and you need to be the moderator, basically, for people who have the skills, like part of the skill set to solve the problem, and you need to bring them together. And I think that's very true, like very abstract answer to your question.
So I kind of get it, and I guess I could put it in a bit more, like in a nutshell. The way I would say it is like you talk to our clients, or if we don't have actual direct clients, you try to figure out what it is that the end user wants. That might mean meetings, it might mean going on a forum, it might mean whatever it might mean, but you have to figure out what they want and what solves their issue, and then you communicate that to us, the engineering team, or to the project manager, because as you have explained to me on Slack earlier this week, product management is not project management. It's different. And I guess you communicating product requirements into issues in a ticketing system, that's more of a project management thing.
Well, yeah, it depends. Like the project manager would probably see through that you do your work on these tickets, but doesn't question the tickets. And I would be the one understanding the tickets and writing them, maybe, or enable others to write these tickets. Because, for example, you have a question on, like, the way I solve the problem depends on, do I understand the problem correctly? Like, should we go left or right? Is it A or B? Or I don't even know what A and B is. Like, can you tell me, like, this is very abstract. Can you tell me what this means? Like, why is this solving anything for customers? Or why should I not go this route, for example? And the project manager would specifically not be able to answer that, because it's not their job to do that. It's probably more like I find out, or I figure out who knows that and bring that knowledge in. But the project manager would rather be the one than making sure everything flows really efficiently, but not necessarily effectively, in a sense that the outcome could be wrong completely, but it's not the project managers, like, they don't have to do the business, don't have to have the business acumen, or have to do the customer research, or have to launch the product and maintain it later. They are there to wrangle the chaos and get people in line so that they can do the best of work, but it's not there to answer any questions in terms of what is a retirement of a carbon certificate.
I think that's a super important question to do, because, like, yeah, as you said, right now I understand it because you told me, but I thought it's like, to me, it was a manager kind of same thing. And I remember you joked to me, what was when I said I thought it's the same thing. You told me, oh well, what's the difference between a front end engineer and a back end engineer? You both work with computers. It's different.
Yeah.
Like product management is different. Because I think I really liked what you said, where in our private chat, when you said that essentially a product manager tries to find out what the good tasks to do are. Yeah, and you actually said it right now too. Whereas the project manager doesn't care if those are the right things to do; he just gets them done.
Yeah, I mean, that is just for clarification, or to understand it better. That is like, it's painting this as extremes, right? It's very polarizing, and there's like a whole world of job description where this is in between. But it's one thing is important. It's important to understand that this is not necessarily like in the strengths, like uniting this in the strength of one human is not necessarily always happening, right? So not every product manager is a good project manager, or the other way around. And if you mix these things together, you will always risk that you find a very good person for one job, for example, for being an expert and being the customer voice, etc. But being maybe it's not your thing to whip people into effectiveness and bring them, annoy people so much that they just do their work, right? That sounds really bad, but sometimes project managers, that's their thing, right? They need to figure like, did you guys do your stuff? Did you do, like, are you upholding your deadline? Do we need to move the deadline? Do we need more resources? Tell me now. Where are we? Like, you're the person basically where everything comes together as for reporting, and you're the person where you basically distribute the pressure. And that sounds negative, but like the friendly pressure, I'd say, onto the team in terms of like, we need to, in order to get this deadline done, we need to do this, and we need to double resources on backend in order to get this done. And that's a different role. That's also different character that you have. And yeah, that's, I didn't really do feel great in these roles. So
I guess, yeah, you could do it in a nice way, and then you could be a not so nice project manager. And then, like I said, like you have to a certain degree hound people to get do their work, but you have to do it delicately, otherwise they're just gonna get annoyed with you. Which kind of brings me to, what do you think makes a good product manager, not project manager, but what makes a good product manager?
yeah, I think a good product manager just assumes they know nothing. I think that's like the first trap that you fall into if you think you understood the problem already completely. Like, there's no need for communication, for research, for testing, for prototyping stuff. You just have it down. And it needs to strike a balance also of overdoing that is also bad. So if you stuck in analysis paralysis forever and don't make decisions, then that's also bad. So I think you need to, like, a good product manager strikes a balance between like not overestimating what they know and being willing to fail forward or make mistakes and make decisions. Not necessarily mistakes, but decisions. That's the important part. And base them on as much of objective information as they can possibly get. And a good product manager falls in love with their domain where they're in and understand that really well and be part of this. And yeah, share that also with your domain, right? So it's not like you're extracting all the time. Is that you become a part of this domain, and that you give back, for example, and go to things that I hate, like meetings and meetups and stuff like this, and where you share back, because it's a very organic learning situation. And I think good product managers have that down, and they need to have some sort of like organizational skills. Not project management per se, but really there's a lot of chaos in any product development included. And, part of solving this huge, gigantic problem is to know how to cut it into smaller pieces. And that would be a product manager's job. Maybe in contrast, I think a bad product manager is somebody who thinks they're the boss of a team. They're not. They can be the CEO or the leader. They can be a leader of a team, but to me, it's different. You're not bossing around people. Leading for me is making decisions, and not everyone wants to make decisions. And sometimes it's horrible to make decisions, or it doesn't. You don't know what to do. And product managers should be the ones who step in for that and who enable. Really, like, that's also where I think it is really there's a big overlap with people who aspire to become leaders in their domain, if they have it down in order to like, first step is enable people. It's not boss around. It's not be at the front and center of things. But it's like good leadership is the same as good product management, is enabling like your team to do what it needs to do. And that also means like you don't have a problem with doing shitty tasks that are really like, you don't have a problem of taking that call from the customer who just rants at you for half an hour. And you don't blame your engineers on that. Like, yeah, well, that's our Romanian developers, like, whew. And you don't do that, right? That's where you step in, and you do things that are just boring. You register brands, or you do research, and you talk to legal, and you do shit like that.
To a degree, the part of freelancing that I did not want to do anymore. And I think it's super important that you mentioned that it's important to share knowledge with others and like help each other basically. Like this is so important. I've even talked to a friend of mine that's a photographer last night, and they have this just, I don't know, competition in between themselves where they kind of attack themselves. They try to nudge their clients. Oh, I'm cheaper than the other guy. Why do that? You're lowering the market for yourself. You're not helping the other guy. You're not helping yourself. You're not helping anybody. And in
Yeah,
the end, cheaper product usually ends up being less quality in my experience. You're really not helping anybody. We should be, either as product managers, as engineers, we should be trying to help each other. I guess that's
yeah,
the reason
absolutely.
for this interview right here too, right? To help people.
That's really cool that you do that. And I think this doesn't it's not limited to project devs, project managers, or devs inside of projects and products. Um, I think that should be that's one of the things that intrigues me also, in the Web3 ethos a lot, that this, open and sharing, and it's okay to do the same thing. Like, competition is okay to exist and even good for you. And like this constant underestimating of the value it brings to just collaborate, and holding back information is like just harming everyone. Like, you rid yourself of a opportunity to learn something, when you just hold everything back from others and don't tell them like what you're up to, for example. um, because you could get feedback, or you could have a open conversation with somebody like, well, we tried that and we're not doing something different because, well, that was not so great. And that's a data point that you could have if you would be much more open on that. And I think that's great. And in Web3, this is much more prevalent. There's still a lot of bickering, and like, smearing, uh, which to me, in this community, is even more hurtful, I think, than in other communities, because this is not the social fabric, the layer zero, basically, that pulls us all into this, right?
We only really have time for one more question.
Great. I rambled so long that I skipped all the hard questions. That was my plan.
I have four of them, so it's gonna be. Um, oh, what should I ask? What is most useful to people watching this? What do you think? I have one of them which asks you, what compensation can a mid-level product manager expect? The second one is, do you like your work? And the third one is, what's your advice to someone that wants to pursue this path? And they're all kind of important to me. There is
Okay.
another one about like investing that's less important to me, but these three are super important. And I don't know which to pick. So I'm gonna let you pick one. Compensation, do you like your work, or what advice to a beginner that wants to get into product management? Which do you like most?
I try to do all three, man. I'll take the challenge. I like my work a lot. I think I alluded to that. I moved my career more to that. I also took hits and in my career path to going more into that direction, because it feels good to me of doing that. And anyone who feels like they would be liking to do that, and it might not be the optimal choice, or it might not be the optimal career path, or there's something like some strategy or sales job that pays more. If you have pleasure in that, it's the right job. That's my advice to you. If you want to go into that, do that. Try to get into a senior team. Start with nothing, but that's okay. Start with learning a lot and ask questions and get an expert, and like one small thing, become an expert and build on top of that. And if there's some luck involved, you need to be lucky to have a good team. I had several great teams that I was lucky enough to work with, and you learn a lot from them. And don't rid yourself of the possibility to learn. Like, you need to be humble as a product manager, I think, and be humble. It's good advice for every human. That's why product managers are the best humans, I'd say. No, I'm joking. But you have a good chance of learning from a lot of people in that role, because you get to do a lot of shit and a lot of great things and many different things, and learn while doing that. And then you become really valuable and respected, and that feels great also. And in terms of salaries, I am not sure. I've seen things between like depends on what we're talking about. If you're really starting off with this, and this is your first gig, then in Central Europe, you go with 50K, 60K, maybe. You get medium level, mid-level, have a few years of experience. You go 60, 80K, something like this. It depends a little bit on the sector. So if you go in banking, that pays really well. It's the devil, and crypto is so much better. But if you want to get paid really well, that's the thing. Also, pharma projects, like you can add 30% to what I said in other sectors, but on average, maybe that's something like this. And if you get experienced, then 6-figure salary in Europe, especially in tech. And in well-established tech companies, that's doable. Like, that's really realistic. And then there's obviously no end to the top, depending on where you go and how good you are and how broad you get. But yeah, and that's a tip also. If you want to do that, if you want to go into product manager direction, then working in a tech company is great, and working in a startup is great, because you do all kinds of things and you learn all kinds of stuff, and you have very close experience in customer research and getting to know customers. How do you turn a conversation or somebody screaming at you into a requirement? That's a great skill to have. And you learn that in startups really well. And if you are more in terms of interested in methodologies and structure and best practices of how to do things and do it at big scale, and how does product management work across teams of several teams of dozens of people, then big tech is definitely also a good place to learn that.
Well, I'm super happy you joined me today, and I think this has been super interesting and a super good learning experience about product management to people that did not know what it is about. We do have to run because I have a meeting 4 minutes ago about contract upgrades. But yeah, I'm happy to see you today, and actually, I think we're gonna see each other today again.
We do.
Yes, we are.
Do.
See you later.
And I'm looking forward to that as well. I can't wait. I think we can go on also. We can leave this on and we just listen to your meeting.
Make it alive, like a day at Tucan.
Fantastic. All right. Thanks for having me, man. It's a great, this is a great format. I like it.
Yeah, thank you. I try my best to be as casual as possible.
Yeah, you bring some ferns next time.
Oh, I love two ferns. I love it.
Yeah,
Love Zach. He's the funniest.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet.
See you around.
See you later, man. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.